What I'm going to show you here is a scene between Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs. And what you're going to notice is Anthony Hopkins is playing a serial killer. He's an intimidating character with a lot of control in the scene. And as a result, I know this is 100% intentional. He, as an actor, is going to be blinking far less than Jodie Foster. And that gives him a sense of power and control, and it's a bit unnerving. Something which you might not think about a lot when you're watching film is how often each character blinks. And I think this scene is a great example of how the less you blink, often the more power you have, or the more confidence you're perceived to have. If you take a look at the timeline here, I've gone through and I've put a marker for every single point where either character blinks. All of the blue markers are when Anthony Hopkins blinks, and all of the pink markers are where Jodie Foster blinks. Before we go through specific sections of the scene, I just want to point out some numbers. The scene lasts a total of 6 minutes and 18 seconds, with a total of 73 blinks. Now, if you go on Google and you look up, the average amount of blinks, it says most adults blink about 14 to 17 times a minute. And there are some other numbers, 15 to 20, 12 to 15, but I've decided to go with this 14 to 17 as our estimation for the average amount of blinks per minute. So I've done some quick maths, and if we were to play this scene, we would expect about 88 to 107 eye blinks. That would be, on average, how much someone blinks. But instead, in this scene, we're only going to see 73 total blinks. And also what's interesting is Anthony blinks 46% less than Jodie. Of the total 73 blinks, Anthony only has 23, whereas Jodie has 50 of those. She blinks 217, that's more than twice as often as Anthony that Jodie blinks during this scene. So without further ado, I'm going to play some sections of the scene, and I just want you to be aware of how often each character is blinking and how that makes you feel as an audience member.
Good morning.
Dr. Lecter, my name is Clarice Starling. May I speak with you?
You're one of Jack Crawford's, aren't you?
I am, yes.
May I?
That's the first time that Anthony Hopkins has blinked in this scene. More than 20 seconds have passed up to this point, and that's the first blink. Again, we would expect much more blinking if he were blinking like an average person, but no, he's just staring her down coldly. And that gives a certain power. It's unnerving. So I think that's really interesting from an acting perspective. And I saw a podcast clip where he was talking about how he did some spider animal work. He's trying to behave like a spider, like he's looking at his prey, as though Jodie were a fly or an insect or something. And as we play this scene, just notice how he looks at her like a predator, and he doesn't blink a lot. And when he blinks, I don't know if this is intentional either, but he blinks kind of slower than you would normally blink. There's a certain eerie quality to it. So again, this is 100% intentional. The actors in the scene might not be timing each blink, but he's for sure made a conscious choice to blink less. So throughout the scene, I imagine his focus is on Jodie and on how he wants to make her feel and on being in the moment and being present and other things related to the dynamic between the two characters. I don't think he's consciously, okay, I'm not going to blink for this 15-second period, but I do believe he's made a deliberate decision to blink far less, and also the editors for this scene have, without a doubt, picked takes where he's blinking less for the takes where they want him to be perceived as more powerful or more confident. So I'm going to play a bit further, and you'll see this play out.
See your credentials?
Certainly.
Closer, please. Closer.
Again, this is the first time where he's blinking, and I think it kind of shows that he's I guess, conceding a bit because he now has to come to Jody. You know, Jody, she pushes her identification badge towards him. When he says closer, she's obliging and she puts it closer to his field of vision so he can see it more clearly. That's her walking into his frame. But now, in this part of the scene, Anthony has to come towards her. So it's a bit of, he's losing some power in the scene because he's now coming into her frame. He's coming towards her rather than the other way around. Again, this might be a bit of an over-analysis on the blocking, but I'm going to go and I'm going to skip ahead towards a really great example of where not blinking makes you much more powerful in the scene. It's a 7-minute scene, so I'm not going to play the whole thing all the way through, but I'll skip to another section where what Anthony has been saying and is saying is really scaring Jody. The section I'm talking about is here. The pink blinks are Jodie Foster, and the blue ones are Anthony Hopkins.
It won't do.
I'm only asking you to look at this, Doctor. Either you will or you won't.
Yeah. Jack Crawford must be very busy indeed if he is recruiting help from the student body. Busy hunting that new one, Buffalo Bill. What a naughty boy he is. Do you know why he's called Buffalo Bill? Please tell me. The newspapers won't say.
Well, it started as a bad joke in Kansas City homicide. They said, this one likes to skin his humps.
Why do you think he removes their skins, Agent Starling? Throw me with your acumen.
It excites him. Most serial killers keep some sort of trophies from their victims.
I didn't.
No. No, you ate yours.
You send that through now.
So again, here they're talking about a serial killer and, you know, dead victims. And I think this is getting to Jody. She's a little scared, and also she's being stared down by Anthony Hopkins. So she's a bit off balance, not quite sure what to do. She's also coming here, she's a student, she's trying to get information from Anthony Hopkins, but it's not going well. And I think you guys could feel that because Anthony wasn't blinking, he came across as much more intimidating and a lot more powerful. Again, that was this section here. Another interesting thing I just want to point out is how still Anthony Hopkins is throughout this whole scene. If I draw a outline of his figure and we play the scene, you will see how little he moves from this frame, and that gives him a lot of power. He doesn't have to move, whereas Jody, she's going to be moving a bit more. Again, it's subtle, but she's not as still, not as in control. So I'm just going to play this clip, and I want you to notice that Anthony basically doesn't move from this highlighted area.
Yeah. Jack Crawford must be very busy indeed if he is recruiting help from the student body. Busy hunting that new one, Buffalo Bill. What a naughty boy he is. Do you know why he's called Buffalo Bill? Please tell me. The newspapers won't say.
Well, it started as a bad joke in Kansas City homicide. They said, this one likes to skin his humps.
So Jodie's much more free with how she moves her head. Again, it's still perfectly sized for screen acting, but she is moving more than Anthony Hopkins. And that, combined with his strong eye contact and no blinking, makes him much more powerful in this scene. I'm not going to play any more of the scene. I feel I've demonstrated my point. I've shown you the markers, how much more Jodie's blinking than Anthony Hopkins, and I've also shown you some of these statistics. Now, I don't think in a scene you should be deliberately focused on your blinking. It might be a semi-conscious thing. It might take like maybe 5 to 20% of your focus, but the vast majority of your focus and concentration should be on the other person, on being present in the moment. Because if you're focused on yourself and operating your face on a physical level, you're going to see that in the scene, and it's going to come across as strange or robotic. So they're definitely semi-conscious of this, but overall, I believe they're connected to their scene partner, and behaving as the character would in the scene. If you can take away an awareness of how often you're blinking and how much you're moving and whether or not you want to be perceived as more or less powerful in a scene, then I'm happy. I hope that this video has made you more conscious of these choices as an actor, and I hope you've learned something.